Hey friends, welcome back to Horror Stories Bedtime. Take a slow breath. Listen to the rain. Imagine you've just booked a quiet getaway, a small farmhouse on a hill, with a porch, a garden, and a view of autumn trees. You go there to rest, to read, to feel far away from noise. But some places don't want peace. Some places remember too much. I found the farmhouse on Airbnb one night in early October. It had 5 stars, over 100 reviews, and photos that looked like something from a magazine. White porch, red shutters, wood stove, fresh bread on the counter. It was in Easton Hollow, Vermont, a small place near the border, surrounded by forest. The listing said, "Quiet farmhouse retreat, perfect for couples, built in 1894, recently restored." The host's name was Helen. Her profile picture was an old woman smiling beside a pie. The reviews all said the same thing. Helen's home is spotless. The host leaves fresh honey from her own hives. There's something magical about the place. I booked it for the weekend. My girlfriend, Anna, and I had been fighting a lot lately. We needed quiet. We needed to feel like people again. The drive took 6 hours. By the time we got there, the sky was gray and low. The road curved through empty hills, then opened onto a small dirt lane. At the end stood the farmhouse, white paint, red trim, and a porch swing that creaked in the wind. A sign near the door read, "Welcome guests, please treat the house kindly." Helen wasn't there when we arrived, but she left a note on the kitchen table. "Dear guests, I'm away at the market, but everything's ready for you. Bread is in the oven, honey is in the jar. Please enjoy your stay." Helen, the kitchen was warm. The air smelled like cinnamon and old wood. Everything looked perfect, the kind of perfect that feels staged, like a photo waiting for people to fill it. We unpacked, poured wine, and sat on the porch watching the rain start. The hills faded into fog, the world softened. It felt like peace finally. That night, while we were getting ready for bed, Anna noticed something odd. In the hallway outside our bedroom, the wallpaper had a small seam, just barely visible. She ran her fingers over it and frowned. "It feels like there's something behind here," she said. It looked like an old repair. The pattern didn't quite line up. But when she pressed it gently, we both heard a soft, hollow sound, like there was space behind it. We laughed about it at first. "Every old house has secrets," I said. She said, "Maybe it's where Helen hides the good honey." We went to bed. The wind moved through the trees. The wood stove crackled. For the first time in weeks, we fell asleep holding hands. At around 2:17 a.m., I woke up to a sound. A soft thump somewhere down the hall. It wasn't loud, more like something bumping gently against a wall. Then another thump. I sat up. Anna mumbled, "What is it?" "I think something fell," I whispered. I went into the hall. The floor creaked. The wallpaper seam caught my eye, the same spot she'd touched earlier. And now the edge of it was curled slightly outward. There was a small crack, no bigger than a fingernail, running along the baseboard. From it, a faint, cold draft came out. I leaned closer, and from the other side, I swear I heard movement. A slow shuffle, then silence. In the morning, I looked again. The seam looked normal. I told myself I imagined it. Anna joked about the ghost of Vermont's best hostess. We spent the day hiking. When we came back, Helen had left a jar of fresh honey and a note. "You look like you needed sweetness." It made us smile. The house felt friendly again. We made dinner, opened wine, played cards by the fire. For a while, everything was easy. Until the wind started. The farmhouse groaned like something breathing. Windows rattled softly. Doors shifted in their frames. And then, faint but clear, came that same thump, 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 right behind the wall in the hallway. I stood there, candle in hand, listening. The sound stopped. Then a whisper, low, broken, like someone repeating a word they've forgotten. I pressed my ear to the wallpaper. It was cold. Then very softly, I heard scratching. Anna came up behind me. "Stop it," she said. "You're freaking me out." I wanted to laugh, but the air behind that wall felt alive, charged, waiting. I knocked once. 3 knocks came back. The next morning, Anna wanted to leave, but the storm had turned the dirt road into a river of mud. The car wouldn't make it out until the rain stopped. Helen texted, "Hope the weather isn't spoiling your stay. If you hear strange noises, don't worry. The house settles during storms." No mention of the wall. We decided to distract ourselves, baked bread, read books, played music. By evening, the wind died down. The farmhouse went quiet again. After dinner, Anna went upstairs to shower. I stayed in the kitchen, cleaning up. I heard the water running. Then through the vent, a faint hum like someone singing. At first, I thought it was her. Then I realized it was coming from below. The hum was soft, steady, old, like a tune a child might sing to themselves in the dark. It echoed up through the floorboards. I froze. The sound shifted, now behind the wall near the stairs. Then behind me. I turned, and for the briefest second, I saw the wallpaper move, as if someone pressed a hand against it from the other side. When Anna came down, she looked pale. She said the mirror in the bathroom fogged up, and words appeared on it. "Stay quiet." We packed. We didn't care about the rain anymore. We just wanted out. The road was half flooded. The car slipped twice, but we made it back to the main road by dawn. We didn't look back. That night back home, I got a message from Helen. It said, "I hope you found the stay restful. I noticed you left early. If you can, please don't mention the wall in your review. It upsets the others." Attached was a photo, a picture of the hallway. The wallpaper had been torn open, revealing a narrow door behind it. The door was slightly ajar, and inside the darkness, 2 pale hands were visible, resting gently on the floor. A week later, the listing was gone, but a new one appeared. Cozy farmhouse in Easton Hollow, perfect for couples. Fresh honey provided, recently renovated. The photos were the same, except now, in the background of one picture, you can just barely see the hallway. And in the shadows by the doorframe, a faint handprint on the wall. If you ever rent a farmhouse, and the walls sound hollow when you knock, and your host tells you to ignore the noises, listen anyway. Some rooms aren't empty. They're just waiting to be remembered. Good night. Hey friends, welcome back to Horror Stories Bedtime. Take a slow breath. Imagine a tidy suburban street after work, mail in the box, sprinklers running, neighbors calling good evenings across hedges. Picture a home that looks like a promise kept, clean lawn, porch light on, a warm welcome at the door. Tonight's story is about a host whose house looked perfect in every review. The house was 5 stars. The host had a smile that made you feel seen. But some smiles keep lists. Let's begin. I was on a business trip the week the storm started across the Midwest. My flight was delayed and then canceled, and the hotel had no rooms left. At nearly midnight, I grabbed my phone and scrolled through Airbnb like someone trying to find a quiet face in a crowd. I needed a bed, a shower, a door I could close. The listing I found had a simple title: "Welcome Home, Peaceful Room Near Downtown, 5 Hosts." The photos were clean and bright. A spare bedroom with white sheets, a small desk, a potted plant by the window. The host's profile showed a man in his 50s with close-cropped hair and a cardigan, smiling like he had time to listen. Reviews read like small poems of gratitude. The host left a basket of snacks and a map. 5 stars. Quiet street, clean sheets, honest talk. The address was in a leafy suburb, one of those neighborhoods where the street names are trees and everyone knows where the best pie is made. I messaged the host and asked if he had a late check-in. He answered within minutes. Of course, I'm home late nights sometimes. Drive up the driveway, there's a light that says welcome. I'll leave the key in the lockbox. Safe travels. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light did say welcome. A small wooden sign hung from a hook, and a lantern sent warm light across the steps. I should say it felt normal. It felt like being invited over for soup after a long day. I took the key, walked in, and the house smelled like lemon cleaner and something baking. The downstairs was perfect for a host. Couch-framed photos of family, a piano against the wall. A bowl of mints sat by the coffee table. A handwritten note on the table said, "Welcome, please make yourself at home. Daniel." I left my bag by the stairs and went upstairs to the room. It was like the photo, neat, calm, with a journal and a pen on the bedside table. I felt tired in a good way. The bed felt like a promise. I showered and dozed to the sound of rain on the roof. In the middle of the night, I woke with a start. My phone had no service, and the city was far away in the dark. I opened my eyes and noticed a soft light coming from the hallway. I pulled on slippers and went to see. Daniel was sitting at the small table in the landing, leafing through a stack of Polaroids under the lamp. He looked up and gave that same gentle smile. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. I said it was the storm, and he nodded like a man who respected storms. He patted the chair opposite him and invited me to sit. "You travel a lot?" he asked. I said yes sometimes. He nodded and tapped the stack of photos. "I keep them here. Guests like to see the house. It makes people feel at home." He shuffled the photos slowly, each one a small square. I looked. The photos were of people in his living room, his backyard, his kitchen. They were all smiling, holding a cup of coffee, a plate of cookies, a phone, a small bouquet. They looked like normal guest photos. Many had notes in small handwriting on the white border. "Thanks for the quiet stay. Left a book for you. 5 stars, would recommend." His little stack felt like a guest book you could hold. Then he handed one to me. It was a Polaroid of me. I had no idea who had taken it. I looked shocked. I had never been in that living room until tonight. The photograph was dated, but the date was tomorrow's date. I laughed because it felt safer to laugh. "That's a joke," I said. He watched me like a man watching someone try to steady from a small fall. "It's nothing to worry about," he said. "I take a picture when guests come. Sometimes I get one before they arrive by putting the camera on a timer." He smiled like that explained everything. To remember details, to remember faces. But the Polaroid showed me in the bed, half turned toward the camera, eyes open like I had been asleep and someone had taken a picture without waking me. The date scribbled in the white margin was tomorrow. It had my name on the back, written in block letters. I told myself to breathe and that I was on a trip and tired. Maybe a previous guest shared something, I said. Maybe a friend of a friend. Daniel said nothing. He folded the photo and slipped it back into the stack. That night I didn't sleep well. The picture sat in my head like a small stone. The next morning the house smelled like toast and coffee. Daniel had left a plate and a small note. "There is a town fair today. If you want to go, parking is on Oak." It all felt normal until I walked downstairs and saw a line on the mantel I hadn't noticed before. Dozens of framed photos, shelves of them. Men and women smiling. Children with ice cream, couples at the piano. Every single frame had a white border, and on that border, small neat writing, dates, names, times. When I looked closer, I felt a cold place open up in my chest. Each photo had more than a name. Many had small notations in tiny handwriting. Stayed 4 days, left late. Said she'd return in a year. Some had notes like never came back. One had crossed out letters. One had a small stamped date that hadn't happened yet. "Do you take these for every guest?" I asked. He smiled. I do. People like to be remembered. He said it simply, like weather. It's a small thing, keeps house warm. That afternoon, I went out to clear my head. At the town fair, the people were kind. The band played cover songs and a kid dropped cotton candy and started to cry, and an old man in a plaid hat handed me a paper cup of cider. It was a good, ordinary day. When I came back, Daniel had left a fresh towel on my bed and an envelope on the desk. Inside was a card with my name printed on it, my full name and a time. Tomorrow 2:00 p.m. I felt a small prick of worry. Is there a rule? I asked when I found him in the kitchen. He handed me a cup of tea and said, it's just a tradition here. Guests stop by the living room at 2 sometimes if they like to talk. Don't worry. If you prefer, we can skip it. But under his smile, I heard something I could not read. He said, casual. We take a picture with anyone who wants to be in the album. Some people like their picture framed. Some like it taken from memory. He put his hands together as if he were folding them in prayer. It makes the house feel alive. That evening, I thought about leaving. The rational thing was to walk to the highway and find the next motel. But something in me kept me in that house. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe a strange politeness, maybe the feel of people's lives arranged like photographs on the mantel. I stayed. The next afternoon, at 2 sharp, I heard quiet footsteps on the stairs. I dressed slowly, feeling foolish, and went down. The living room had a small camera set on a tripod. Daniel stood near the piano with a soft box glowing. 2 cups of tea sat on the table. He gestured to a chair. Would you like to be in the album? He asked. The question felt heavier than it should. I sat and tried to answer like a grown man. I don't think so. I heard myself sounding small. His face did not change. Most people say the same the first time, he said. But look, you're very welcome either way. He smiled like he meant it. I stood up. No, that's fine, I'm packing up. My voice sounded like I was pulling a blanket. He didn't stop me, he said. If you prefer not, that's fine. But if you do, we ask for a full name. That way we can place it correctly. He touched the edge of a pristine frame as if smoothing a dress. Something in the room shifted. The camera hummed like a seated insect. Outside, a car rolled down the street and the neighbor's dog barked. I felt like someone on the edge of a stage. I said flat, please don't take my photo. He nodded like he'd expected that. All right, he said. If you change your mind, just let me know. There's no pressure. Make yourself a cup. The storm is supposed to roll in tonight. I left with my bag and walked to the car. The street smelled of rain and paper. I thought about going to the next motel. Then I saw a Polaroid fluttering on the postbox. It had my face in the window, standing at the front door that I had only just left. The date in the white margin read the day after tomorrow. My hands went cold. I picked the photo up. On the back, in that same small handwriting, someone had written, "Thank you for visiting." I climbed back up the steps and returned the photo to the mantel. I told myself I was being irrational. I told myself to call my company, to text a friend, to speak the names of people I trusted. I told myself the host was harmless and eccentric. I told myself many things to sleep. That night at 1:43 a.m., someone knocked at the door below my window. I looked down and saw no silhouette, only the porch light swinging. Then my phone buzzed. A message. We take care of our guests. We like to remember. No sender, no number. I stayed awake until dawn, listening to the house breathe. At 7 the next morning, there was a soft creak and someone came up the stairs with small, careful steps. The door to my room opened and a Polaroid slid under the door. It was face down. I picked it up with shaking fingers, turned it over. The photo was of me asleep on the bed. The timestamp on the back said 3:02 a.m. The date, stamped at the corner, was last night. There were words written in a careful hand around the border. Stayed well, left at dawn. I called Daniel across the landing. He stood there with a teacup in both hands and watched me like someone watching a neighbor sleep. We take pictures to remember, he said again. Guests sometimes like a copy. You took this last night, I asked. Yes, he said. You look tired and peaceful. It's a nice picture. He closed his fingers on the rim of the cup until I thought his knuckles might blanch. Would you like us to frame it? I told you not to, I said. My voice sounded small on the wooden floor. He blinked like he had heard me say something I had said before. Most people consent when they see the photo, he said. Maybe they're too tired to object. We keep them safe. That's what matters. Something in his words slid like a loose nail. I asked for the key back and he gave it without argument. He walked me to the door with a calm that made my hands shake. I told him the air felt wrong. I told myself it was the storm outside. He said, if you leave now, be careful with the roads. He said it with the same care he used for his photos. When I started the car, the engine had an odd cough. The steering felt like something had tightened the wheel. The rain came down in sheets, and the wipers made a beat in my head. I pulled away slowly and tried to get to the highway. At the corner, I looked in the rear view. Through the downpour, I saw the light on the porch and someone standing very still in the window, watching me drive away. I went straight to the police when I got to a gas station that had a working coffee pot. I told the officer about the photos, the dates, the Polaroids left under the door. He nodded and asked me to calm down. He said he'd send someone by to check. He wrote details into a form about an odd complaint. When I drove back by later that day, the house looked perfectly ordinary. The frames in the window glinted like innocent things. A woman walking a dog waved to me across the street. The porch light blinked, welcome, in the late afternoon sun. That evening, I checked my email and found a message in my inbox. No sender, just a subject line. Thank you for staying. Attached was a photograph. I opened it and felt the blood in my face go cold. The photo was of me, sitting in my car in the gas station parking lot, the same moment I had called the police. The timestamp printed at the bottom of the image read exactly 5:14 p.m. The note on the back was brief. We remember where you were. I stopped answering calls. I disconnected my phone from the car and left it in the glove compartment. I slept badly in the motel and woke to a new message on my voicemail. The voice was small and even, and it said, "Thank you for visiting. We hope you are well. If you feel unsettled, come back by tomorrow. We'd like to keep your photo here framed. We only want to remember." I changed my flight the next morning and left the state. I told myself that once I was far away, the Polaroids would be a story and then nothing more. I told myself I was silly and that people were strange, and that a house full of photos is simply a man's life arranged. I told myself many things to make the world straight. 3 weeks later, I saw a message from a friend, a link to a local paper, a small item in the community section. It was a short note about a missing person. Local man, Daniel Avery, 54, last seen in his home. Neighbors report unusual photography activity. House under investigation. There was a photo of the house and a dozen small thumbnails in a row, guest photos from the window, smiling faces, dates. One was of a man sitting in a car at a gas station. My stomach fell. I read further. There was a sentence flagged by the editor with an asterisk. Neighbors report a public display of framed Polaroids of guests at the host's home. The asterisk led to a note at the bottom. Police advise caution if you see unknown photos posted in public spaces. That night, my inbox filled with a single new message. No subject, no header, just a Polaroid image attached. I opened it and my breath froze. It was a photo of my apartment door. The timestamp was last night. On the bottom margin, written in the same careful pen as before, were the words, "We keep a place for everyone." I put my hands over my face and finally said out loud what I had been telling myself to forget. I had been photographed without my permission, and something in that house had kept the picture. It had mounted my face in a frame like a taxidermy of a moment. It had dated it and cataloged it, and sent it forward like a small proof that I had been there. If you ever stay with a host who keeps photos around like trophies, and if you see your own face appear where you did not expect it, remember, Remember your own right to say no. Tell someone and then tell someone else. Take a picture of the frames and make a copy. There are people who keep albums for kind reasons and people who keep albums to inventory. The difference is the whole shape of the house. Good night. Hey friends, welcome back to Horror Stories Bedtime. Before we begin, imagine a lake still, wide and dark. No sounds but the water touching the shore, and a single branch tapping a cabin window. Now imagine renting a lakeside Airbnb for the weekend, far from noise, far from people, and realizing you're not the only one staying there. I hadn't seen my college friends in years. We used to talk about getting together every summer, but life happened, jobs, families, distance. Then one night in our old group chat, Mark messaged, "Found a lake cabin for cheap. One weekend, no excuses." The link led to an Airbnb listing called Cabin at Coldwater Lake. The photos showed a log cabin surrounded by trees, a dock stretching into still water, and a fire pit with 4 chairs waiting. The listing said, "Private cabin, great fishing, no cell service, self-check-in, guests love the peace." Reviews were short and simple. Quiet, beautiful spot, strange noises at night, but host said it's just the lake. I didn't think much of it. Cheap cabins always had quirks. We booked it for the first weekend in November. Me, Mark, his girlfriend Jenna, and our other friend Kyle. It felt good to be kids again, joking on the drive, gas station snacks, old songs on the radio. By the time we reached Coldwater Lake, the sun was going down. The GPS stopped working 5 miles before the cabin. The road turned to gravel, then dirt, then a narrow path with trees so close their branches touched the car. Finally, we saw it, the cabin from the photos. It sat by the water like it had grown there. A single porch light flickering yellow against the dark. The lake stretched out behind it, black glass under a gray sky. We found the key in the lockbox, just like the host's message said. Inside, the cabin smelled like pine and dust. One big room, wood stove, table, 4 beds, and a wall full of fishing gear. A handwritten note sat on the counter. "Welcome to Coldwater. The power is solar, so be mindful of the lights. If you hear knocking, it's the lake. Don't go outside after midnight. Enjoy your stay." P. Mark read it out loud and laughed. Creepy way to say sleep tight, huh? Jenna rolled her eyes. It's probably wildlife or something. You guys are such kids. We unpacked, lit the stove, and made dinner. The air outside smelled like wet leaves and cold metal. At night, the lake reflected the stars so clearly it looked bottomless. Around 1 a.m., we sat by the fire pit outside. Kyle told a story about getting lost hiking. Mark tried to scare us with something about a local legend, the Coldwater Man, a ghost who came from the lake when people broke the peace. Typical campfire talk. We laughed. When we finally went inside, the wind had picked up. The door rattled softly, and the windows made that low moaning sound wood sometimes makes when it's old. We climbed into our beds and fell asleep to the sound of the water. At 3:08 a.m., I woke to a noise. A dull knock, slow, steady, like someone tapping from below. I thought it was the pipes or the stove, but it was coming from under the floorboards. Knock, knock, knock. It was rhythmic, too even for an animal. Then it stopped. The cabin went silent again. I waited, heart pounding. Knock, this time closer, beneath my bed. "Mark," I whispered. He groaned, half asleep. "Stop tapping the floor, man." "It's not me," I said. The sound stopped again. We waited. The silence pressed in like water. Then something answered. 3 knocks from the far side of the cabin. Then 2. Then 1. Then nothing. The lake outside rippled though there was no wind. Morning light came like relief. We joked about it. Ghostly fish, that's all, Kyle said. But the mood was different. The cabin felt heavier. Jenna found something by the dock. A small jar with a piece of paper inside, half buried in the mud. She brought it to the table and opened it. The paper was water-stained, but we could still make out the words. If you hear the knocks, don't answer. She laughed nervously. Someone's idea of a prank. Mark dropped it in the trash. We went fishing, grilled burgers, tried to shake off the weirdness. By evening, we were almost normal again. That night around 2 a.m., the wind died completely. The cabin stood in still silence, so quiet you could hear the lake breathing. Then the knocking started again. Not under the floor this time. From the walls, a slow dragging sound, like someone tracing their nails across the boards. Jenna sat up pale. Tell me you hear that. The knocking moved, from the wall near the window, to the one near the door, then beneath the floor again. It was circling us. Mark grabbed the flashlight. Animals, he said, but his voice shook. He shined the light at the floor. The boards were dry. No movement. Then the sound came from behind him. A knock so loud it shook dust from the beams. He spun. The flashlight flickered. And for a split second, I saw something in the corner. A wet handprint on the inside of the glass. Fingers long, reaching upward. Dripping lake water. We stared. The print slowly faded, like water soaking into the pane. That was enough for us. We packed to leave before dawn. But when we stepped outside, the world had changed. The car was covered in thin ice, though it wasn't cold enough to freeze. And across the windshield, drawn in streaks of condensation, were 5 long finger marks, as if someone had dragged their hand across it from the inside. Jenna started crying. Mark tried the ignition. Nothing. The battery was dead. No service, Kyle said, looking at his phone. He tried walking toward the road, but the fog was too thick. You couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. Then from the lake, we heard it. Soft, echoing, deliberate. Knock, knock, knock. But it wasn't against the cabin anymore. It was coming from under the dock. We stood frozen. Water rippled in perfect rhythm with the sound. Something surfaced, a shape pale and still, just below the water line. Not quite a person, not quite gone. Mark took a step toward the dock. Maybe it's someone. The knocking stopped. Then, in perfect unison, something knocked back, from under the boards right beside his foot. He jumped back, swearing. The dock creaked. Then the boards buckled upward, as if something had pushed hard from beneath. We ran. We didn't even grab our bags. We just ran into the trees. We found the main road after what felt like hours. A passing truck picked us up and took us to the nearest town. When we told the sheriff, he sighed. "You stayed at Coldwater?" he asked. Then he shook his head. That place should have been torn down years ago. He told us the story. In the 1970s, a family ran a small rental cabin business on that lake. One night during a storm, the dock collapsed while 2 kids were out fishing. They fell through the ice and never came back up. The parents drained the lake the next year looking for them. Nothing. When they rebuilt, strange things started happening. Knocking, whispers, guests leaving in the middle of the night. The family sold the land. Nobody stayed long after that. The lake was filled again in the 90s. And the listings, they pop up now and then, the sheriff said. always disappear after a few days. When we got back home, I checked the Airbnb app. The listing was gone, but a new one had appeared under a different name. Private cabin, still waters retreat. Peaceful fishing spot. No service, no distractions. Guests loved the silence. The photos looked identical. Same dock, same chairs, same reflection of trees. But in the last picture, if you look carefully at the water, you can see two faint faces beneath the surface. Eyes open, waiting. If you ever stay by a lake and you hear knocking that comes from below, don't answer it. Don't look. Don't follow the sound. Just pack and leave before the water remembers your name. Good night. Hey friends, welcome back to Horror Stories Bedtime. Tonight's story begins like many of ours do, with someone stranded for the night. A little too tired to think. A little too trusting of technology. You've been there, your flight's canceled, your phone's dying, and the first available Airbnb looks clean, affordable, and safe. But sometimes, the places that promise comfort are just waiting for someone to walk through the door. My name, Emily, and this happened about a year ago, on the night of my sister's wedding. The reception ran late. The rain came down like glass beads, and by the time I got to the airport, my flight was canceled. Every hotel near the terminal was booked. I was running on caffeine and mascara and half a memory of home. I opened the Airbnb app and filtered for tonight only. One result popped up. Entire home, $60. 10 minutes from airport. Safe neighborhood. Self-check-in. 50 host, Claire. The photos were perfect. Minimalist furniture, white walls, clean bedspread. One photo showed a mirror in the hallway that caught the edge of the front door. Everything looked still, quiet, and staged. The way you clean a room for a stranger. The last line of the listing said, "Checkout time, flexible. Just let me know when you leave." That detail would stick with me. The rain made it hard to see as I drove. The house was a one-story ranch at the end of a cul-de-sac. Lights in every window, blinds half drawn. Like someone had been there 5 minutes before I arrived. I parked, grabbed my suitcase, and checked the message thread. Claire had already written, "Welcome, Emily. Code for the door is 2417. I'm watching from the camera, so just wave once to let me know you got in." I frowned at that. Watching from the camera, but I waved anyway, because it was late, and politeness is something you cling to when you're tired. The door beeped, the lock clicked, and I stepped inside. The place smelled faintly of lemon and electricity. A diffuser hummed near the couch. There were framed quotes on the wall. "Every moment is a memory. Good guests make good homes." I dropped my bag. Found a note on the kitchen island. "Please make yourself comfortable. Coffee pods are in the drawer. And don't worry about noises. The house settles at night. Claire." The same sentence every host seems to copy-paste. I walked down the hallway. 3 doors. A guest room. A bathroom. And the main bedroom with a queen-sized bed. Everything was spotless, unnaturally spotless. Even the mirrors. There were a lot of them. One in the hallway, one in the bedroom, one in the bathroom. Each perfectly clean, perfectly positioned. When I passed by, I caught my reflection a dozen times. Me tired, alone, blinking under soft light. I showered, made tea, and curled up on the couch with my laptop. At 11:47 p.m., I got a message from Claire. "Everything okay? You look tired." I blinked. She had no profile photo, and I hadn't given permission for video. "Sorry," I texted back. "You can see me." No answer for a full minute. Then, just checking that you're comfortable. I like to know when guests settle in. Sweet dreams. The message bubble stayed gray for a long time, like she was still typing, but never sent the next thought. Around 2 a.m., I woke to a sound that didn't belong. Not the rain, not the fridge, not the clock. It was soft, steady, rhythmic. Click, click, click. I thought maybe it was the ceiling fan. But when I sat up, I realized it was coming from the hallway. I turned on my phone flashlight. The hallway mirror caught the light first, and for a second, I thought I saw movement. Not behind me, inside the reflection. A figure faint gray, standing by the front door. Its head tilted just slightly, then gone. My heart slammed in my chest. I stepped closer, shining the light on the wall beside the mirror. Nothing there, but in the reflection, the front door was wide open. I turned around. It was closed, locked. I took a shaky breath and texted Claire. Hey, sorry, I think there's an issue with your cameras or something. Did you say you were watching? She replied immediately. Yes, I always check during the first night. Guests feel safer when someone's watching over them. You're watching now. No reply. Claire. A typing bubble appeared, then disappeared. I checked every room, nothing. Still locked. Still alone. Or so I kept telling myself. By 3 a.m., I couldn't sleep. I turned on the TV for noise, but every channel was static, white snow and soft whispering under it. Then the screen flickered. For a moment, it showed the hallway, the mirror, and me, standing there with the remote in my hand. Then black. I yanked the power cord from the wall. No sound but my own breathing. And then from the hallway, a whisper. It wasn't words, just a single low tone, like the hum of a refrigerator that can breathe. I took one step toward the mirror, and my reflection didn't move. It stayed where it was, looking at me, smiling faintly. I stumbled back. My phone buzzed again. A new message from Claire. Checkout time is 4:00 a.m. Please leave through the back door. The clock on the wall said 3:46. What do you mean? I typed. I booked 2 nights. Yes, she replied. But the mirror likes short stays. My phone slipped from my hand. The light in the hallway dimmed to a soft red glow. The mirror surface shimmered, as if something was moving just beneath it. The reflection of the front door opened again, and from that dark shape inside, a hand pressed outward, flat against the glass. A wet handprint bloomed, fingers long, palm angled upward. Then another, and another. The sound returned. Click, 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 like fingernails on glass. I ran to the bedroom, slammed the door, locked it. But there was a mirror inside there too. A full-length one beside the dresser. And in it, my reflection again. Only now it was standing closer, one step ahead of me, watching. Then I noticed something impossible. Behind my reflection, in the mirrored version of the room, the door was open, and someone was walking in. I grabbed my bag and bolted for the back door. Outside, the rain felt sharp, heavy. The backyard was fenced, but the gate hung open. I didn't look back. I drove until my gas light came on. When I finally stopped at a diner on the highway, the clock on my dashboard said 4:02 a.m. I looked in the rearview mirror. For half a second, my reflection smiled back, but my face wasn't smiling. Later that morning, I checked my phone. The Airbnb app was gone, deleted somehow. But a new email had arrived. Thank you for staying with us. Please rate your experience. You may have noticed your reflection differently. That's normal during the first visit. If you'd like to stay again, your mirror will remember you. Claire. Attached was a single photo, a still frame from the hallway camera. It showed me walking out the back door, and behind me in the mirror, someone else walking out too, only she wasn't carrying a bag. 2 months later, a new listing appeared in the area. Same photos, same host name, different address, entire home, perfect for solo travelers. Flexible checkout time. Guests love the mirrors. If you ever stay somewhere that feels too clean, too quiet, too still, and your host says they're watching from the camera to keep you safe, remember this. They might not be watching you. They might be watching what's standing just behind you. Good night.